Well, it looks like with this movie, Ghostbusters has received new life. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about a brand new release, Ghostbusters Afterlife. Before we begin, let me know in the comments what your thoughts on this movie were, if you already saw it, or if you were planning on seeing it, and make sure to hit that thumbs up button if you like these reviews, as it helps me out immensely by getting my content out there. And if you're new here, I hope you consider hitting that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with reviews of new releases, older films, hidden gems, and so much more on a near daily basis. But let's jump right into it and let's talk about Ghostbusters Afterlife. This stars Carrie Coon as a single mom who, along with her two kids, arrive in a small town of Sommersville, Oklahoma, where they begin to discover their connection to the original Ghostbusters and the secret legacy their grandfather left behind. Over 30 years later, it's finally here. We finally have a sequel to the original two Ghostbusters films. It may not have been the ones that fans initially had in mind, as people have wanted this since 1989 when Ghostbusters 2 was released, but it's something, and it allows us to celebrate the legacy of the original film while still finding a way to move forward. This is directed by Jason Reitman, who also co-wrote the screenplay, and when he was announced as the director, it had a lot of people excited simply just due to him being original director Ivan Reitman's son alone, considering he'd already be in tune to the spirit of what makes the original Ghostbusters work. And what helped too is that Ivan Reitman was also on board as a producer. But I was even more excited due to the fact that Jason Reitman is an excellent director in his own right. And truth be told, while I like Ivan Reitman as a director, and this is no disrespect to him, I think I like Jason's output considerably more. Thank You for Smoking, Juno, Up in the Air, Tully, and even The Polarizing Young Adult are all great movies, and most of them have wound up being one of my favorite films of their respective years. Mainly because he knows how to capture real human emotion so well and in such a nuanced way, and that's what helped make this such a wonderful experience. This is probably the most emotional of the Ghostbusters movies, which isn't exactly saying much considering this is a franchise not known for their emotional impact, but this goes right for the feels in a number of different ways. For one thing, the film goes for a very whimsical, old-school adventure movie tone, where not only is there a lot of spectacle, but there's a lot of wonder and awe accompanying the spectacle. It's a tone that's very reminiscent of Stranger Things and It, where it plays a lot into your nostalgia, which was the vibe we were getting pretty much from the first trailer, especially due to the casting of Finn Wolfhard, who was in both those projects as one of the main children, like he is here. But with the action moving away from New York, for the first time ever in the series by the way, and into this small town in the middle of nowhere that has large fields and rickety bridges that lead to dangerous mountains and underground caves, it gives this series a sense of adventure like we've never seen before. And with our characters making all these major discoveries that lead them to some brand new territory, there's a sense of excitement and joy that's highly reminiscent of, say, a classic 80s Spielberg movie, which I think will put a smile on a lot of people's faces. But this movie's also very emotional in the way it discusses family and honoring a legacy and finding your niche, and it all stems from Harold Ramis's Egon Spengler. Now, as we know, Harold Ramis unfortunately passed away in 2014, which was a big reason why we thought we were never actually going to get a movie like this. But the legacy of Egon is an incredibly strong presence throughout the film, and is one of the driving forces behind why a lot of things are thrown into action here. And not only is a big part of this film about paying tribute to the character and to Ramis himself, but the actions of his character also play a big part in several characters' arcs and are used to drive home the emotional factor. Most notably, they play a big part in the arc of his granddaughter Phoebe, played by McKenna Grace, who is essentially a mini Egon. She's got the same glasses as him, she's also big into science like he was, and she even has some of the same mannerisms as him. And she is just a wonderful, incredibly likable lead. McKenna Grace gives us such a great performance. Even with so many other big names in the main cast and supporting cast, this is ultimately her movie. And I liked how they portrayed her as this outcast, but they don't play too much into a lot of the tropes we normally get with outcast leads, where she's bullied nonstop and she doesn't like anyone, because here she's just shown as having a hard time connecting with others and she can be a bit of a loner, but she's not this sad, brooding protagonist with no real character traits otherwise. She has her passions and she has her interests, and she simply sticks to what she likes to do and doesn't bother with many others, besides this one kid she meets who calls himself Podcast, literally because he has a podcast. And he's played by Logan Kim, and he was great as well. But McKenna Grace steals the show and is actually very funny, telling these corny science-related jokes that reminded me a lot of the dad jokes The Rock would make in Jungle Cruise, that would often be used in ways that surprisingly didn't feel shoehorned in. And she does a great job of balancing out the film's jokes with a strong emotional core about trying to fit in and finding your place in the world, and it was easily the best performance in the film. While Grace has popped up in a few notable films where she's had a major role, this is the first time she's done something where it feels like she's stealing the show, and this is a great indicator that she has a very promising career ahead of her. And we should be clear, yes, as emotional as this movie is, it is also very funny. Easily the funniest of the film since the first one. Now, because it goes more for that emotional factor here, it's not quite as laugh-a-minute as the first one was, but we still get a lot of really solid moments here. The interactions among all the kids are very sweet and whimsical, and Finn Wolfhard is as always a great source of comedic relief himself, providing wisecracks where he can, and getting in some awkwardly funny moments with Celeste O'Connor as his love interest, who's also the daughter of the sheriff played by Bokeem Woodbine. But another big source of comedy is Paul Rudd, who is just absolutely perfect for a movie like this. And fun fact, he was once rumored to be one of the cast members in one version of Ghostbusters 3 prior to Harold Ramis's passing in a Pass the Torch sort of movie. But here, he works wonderfully, acting as sort of a mentor figure to Phoebe and Podcast, being the one to explain the history of the Ghostbusters to them and telling them all of the technology they once used, as he remembers the sensation the original team was. And as I just said, he's also a major source of the comedy himself, egging the kids on and encouraging them at a time when no one believes them, as well as making a lot of sarcastic quips and deadpan jokes that made him reminiscent of another Peter Venkman, just without as much of the cynical edge to him. Plus, you had a nice little subplot where he forms a romantic relationship with Carrie Coon, where they get off to a little bit of an awkward start that makes the kids laughably uncomfortable, but it winds up being a sweet and charming little storyline, especially for how great the chemistry between them were. And then, the big thing worth mentioning is the way this not only tries to pull on your heartstrings and make you laugh, but really appeal to your nostalgia for the original movies as well. This is absolutely jam-packed with fan service, from revisiting all the technology the original Ghostbusters used, to revisiting old villains and monsters, bringing back specific jokes, among many other things. There are some new ghosts and monsters thrown in there, including a cameo by someone who was only mentioned in the original movie, and I did a double take when I saw him, but this is absolutely riddled with a lot of plot points, references, and Easter eggs that directly reference the original movies. Or at least the first one. I think according to what I read, this doesn't ignore the second movie, but the way this acts, it doesn't bring up anything from that second film at all, so I'm not sure if the second film actually happened from the way the characters talk about past events here. I could be wrong, let me know in the comments if I am. Now, the big criticism towards this movie is that it felt like it relies on fan service a bit too much. Now, I can understand where that criticism is coming from, especially as this isn't really a standalone movie by any means. While I think people who aren't as attached to the franchise will like it a bit more than they expected to, you still need to watch the first movie at the very least in order to understand a number of plot points and references that are brought up, as certain story elements aren't quite as satisfying without it. But even so, I don't think this is just mindless fan service that has no emotional substance behind it. There's still meaning behind a lot of the decisions made. Even with the returning faces from the original movie, they don't pop up just to make a few jokes, wink at the camera, and leave. There are some great jokes involving them, but there's still emotional weight behind their use and the particular moments in which they're used. And even when they do show up, they're never meant to feel like they're one-upping the main characters. They are given importance, but they're never meant to feel like a distraction or that they're taking away from the emotional impact of our main characters' respective journeys. I thought this found a nice balance of honoring the past, giving all the fans what they wanted with the cameos and Easter eggs, while still telling a compelling new story that doesn't feel like just a copy and paste rehash of the original. Now, is the fan service stuff perfect? No, I wouldn't say so, which is one of my only criticisms of the film. There are maybe a few times where a few dramatic beats feel oversimplified or twisted for the sake of fan service, like you'll have Phoebe discover certain things that the Ghostbusters use, and she initially has no idea what it is, but then she becomes an expert at like everything within minutes. And there are times where certain things get ignored just for the sake of very conveniently setting up another major plot point, like when the characters have their first encounter with one of the ghosts, when they let it out of a trap, they are clearly shook by what just happened and know that this ghost is out on the loose somewhere causing havoc, and they all decide to just go about their day-to-day like it never happened. And then because of the fact they ignored it, it allowed the ghost to get to a certain place it needed to be with no one getting in its way, since no one even attempted to follow it. There will be several moments like that where it felt like an urgent moment was followed by something completely non-urgent when it wasn't called for, and it felt like it was being done just to set up a fan service moment. So in that regard, I can see where people are coming from saying that there's too much fan service, but I don't think it's as rampant of an issue where it sucks the whole thing dry of emotional substance, because I felt, for the most part, it was very strong throughout this. Ghostbusters Afterlife is a real treat. It's a film that manages to honor the legacy of the original, as well as the late Harold Ramis, and it gave us all these great Easter eggs and references, while also still telling a compelling new story that didn't feel like a recycled take on the original's formula. It's got a great mix of humor and emotion, as well as a whimsical tone that's reminiscent of 80s blockbusters, making this an absolute joy to watch, and one that I recommend you check out, even if you weren't as big of a fan of the original. Ghostbusters Afterlife gets an 8 out of 10. So, I just wrapped up a review series for the rest of the Ghostbusters movies. I'll leave a link to the playlist in the description in case you missed any of those reviews, but stay tuned as up next will be my ranking of all 4 Ghostbusters movies. In the meantime though, let me know, did you see Ghostbusters Afterlife, or are you planning to see it, and what were your thoughts? Did this live up to the hype for you? Was it your favorite of all the sequels? Let me know in the comments below so we can discuss. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it, and for more movie reviews and film discussion, please make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for watching everyone, and keep having fun with film.